In the name of God who creates, redeems, and sanctifies. Amen. I invite you to be seated. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who has promised is faithful. And let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds. When we go about our days, and when we encounter another person on the sidewalk, for example, what is the most common encounter that happens? Someone says, "Hi, how are you?" And then what do you think the most common responses are? "Fine, good, I'm well, thanks." These are indeed the most frequent responses to that question, "How are you?" Often, a person might also add, "Busy. How are you?" "I'm good, busy, super busy." I admit that I often find myself responding in a similar fashion. "Yeah, I'm great. Very busy, but all good." Recently, someone encouraged me to reframe busy and busyness as instead abundant and abundance. Instead of life being busy and hectic, life might be viewed as abundant. Of course, sometimes we are just plain busy, and our time then feels pretty scarce and not abundant at all. But in general, how does it feel to substitute abundance for all the busy but good things in our lives? This past week at Trinity was truly abundant in every sense of the word. Last Saturday, 50 people showed up here for our fall cleanup day, in addition to the volunteers who were here to prepare and serve the community meal. The cleanup volunteers included both parishioners and a large group of students from Monmouth University who were participating in a campus-wide day of service. You might have noticed last Sunday just how spotlessly clean every inch of the church was, and probably still is, I hope. That was because of our wonderful volunteer crew. And those students from Monmouth who came here, they came not just to help out a church, as important as that is, but there are a lot of churches, but also because we are a space of sanctuary and service for the entire community. And that became really clear, really apparent this past Tuesday when almost every room here at Trinity was being used to serve the community. It was the first Code Blue night of the season. It had been called just that morning. And so that evening we welcomed 40 guests to stay here overnight and rest and be warm, sheltered from the cold, freezing temperature outside. At the same time, we were also hosting a regional training for Code Blue volunteers from Trinity and also from the men's and women's shelters in Red Bank. Attendance was really abundant and unexpectedly so, with about 120 people here for that training. So basically, almost as many people, or about as many people as here today for church, were here for that training. And it was really special. And about 80 of those people were here specifically to learn about Trinity's Code Blue Warming Center. So I think we're going to have a lot of volunteers this winter. That's great, because we're going to need them. And then in addition to that, in addition to hosting Code Blue and training for Code Blue, we were also having a large weekly community meeting here that was meeting down in the choir room Undercroft. At the same time, this room was taken up with training, the gym was taken up with Code Blue, and then the nursery and Sunday school room and meeting room were taken up with breakout rooms from the training. So every place, every space here was just bursting with activity to serve our neighbors. The next day at our weekly staff meeting, the Reverend Catherine Cunningham, our assisting ecumenical pastor, remarked that what we were seeing in that was the fruit of Trinity acting as a sanctuary for the community. People come here to find rest, relief, connection, and transformation. The word sanctuary is derived from the Latin sanctuarium, which connotes a container for holding something holy. Trinity is a sanctuary because God's unconditional love is contained here. But this unconditional love cannot be contained. It flows outward into the community, into the world. And then this container is made even holier by the children of God who come here to experience love, to love and be loved, to be served and to serve. It is in one another that we most truly and clearly see the face of God. Trinity is rooted in abundance that comes from love, God's unconditional love. This year's stewardship campaign theme is Rooted in Abundance, Growing Abundantly. It is inspired by the Old Testament prophet Jeremiah, who wrote, "They shall be like a tree planted by water, sending out its roots by the stream. It shall not fear when heat comes, and its leaves shall stay green. In the year of drought it is not anxious, and it does not cease to bear fruit." Jeremiah's image of a resilient tree planted by water is so important to us as a faith community in this time of uncertainty, division, and fear in our national life and in the world. Jeremiah's tree reminds us that while heat and drought may come, here at Trinity, we will continue to bear the same fruit that we are nourished by: faith, hope, and love. We have faith that despite whatever difficulties we face in our lives, in our nation, in our world, God is with us, walking beside us, made known to us in this community of disciples. We hope for a better tomorrow, for the new and renewed life that is the promise of the resurrection. Hope that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness will not overcome it. And we love. Trinity is rooted in and fed by God's love. God's love in action, made manifest by people here. Here at Trinity, we welcome everyone to be fed spiritually and physically. This is love in action. We help people find a home, whether in this family of faith, in this parish, or in getting off of the street into stable housing through our Trinity Center for Community. We provide shelter, soul-nourishing worship in our beautiful sanctuary, that's shelter, as well as life-saving Code Blue Winter Warming Center space. God's unconditional love is practiced here. This is what we are rooted in, and it is how we are growing. Our tree of life here at Trinity is bearing the good fruit of faith, hope, and love. And as St. Paul says, the greatest of these is love. And our commitment to sharing God's unconditional love is perhaps more important now than ever. From the good soil in which our tree of faith is planted, we flourish, growing abundantly. And as we grow, we will share our abundance with our community and with our world. This is truly a remarkable church. And I am grateful each day, every day, for the privilege to serve as your rector. I'm proud to serve here, and I am proud to pledge here. I hope you will join me today in making your pledge of financial commitment for 2025. Your support makes all the ministry here possible, including operating this building that serves as our home base. To quote Pastor Catherine again, keeping the lights on is being a beacon in the community. And unfortunately, keeping the lights on is not inexpensive. It's not cheap. It gets more costly each year probably something you're familiar with from your own household expenses. But the good news about our rising costs is that here in our case, it's also a sign of our congregation's vitality, our congregation's health and growth. We are growing as a church, both in numbers and in spirit. And that means we're using the building more. We're having more programs. We're buying more supplies. As our revenue increases, we have to give more to the diocese as our fair share contribution. We're growing in numbers and spirit, and that's good news. And growth takes investment. Our growing vitality means that we need more resources to carry out our mission. So if you can give a little extra this year, I promise you it will go to very good use. While many congregations have experienced losses over the past several years, from the pandemic to trends in American religious life and attendance, Trinity has emerged stronger and more focused on serving our community. Thank you for being a part of this revitalization through your presence, your prayers, your participation, and your sharing of resources. Trinity is needed in this community, in this world, perhaps now more than ever. And as we gather our resources, we are going to use them to share God's unconditional love, to speak to every person out there. You are loved. You are valued. You are needed. And we're going to speak to every person out there that whether they're facing hard times or good times, that we are here through God to bring light and life into the world, to make sure that everyone has a place to come and be, a place at this table. In a few minutes, after the passing of the peace and our congregational celebrations, we will joyfully sing, "The God of all grace has blessed us this day, lifting our voices, lifting our hearts to the glory of God forever." As we sing that song in gratitude for God's faithfulness, you will be invited forward to offer your pledge for 2025. In a letter we mailed on All Saints' Day, I offered some guidance on pledging, and here's what I said in case you missed it, and the letter is also there in your bulletin insert. 1, pray and think about your pledge. I hope you've had the chance to review your household budget, but if you haven't, so you think about it for a moment, and pray for guidance about how you allocate your resources. I encourage you to approach your stewardship of this parish as a spiritual exercise. On the pledge cards, there is a prayer you can use as a guide. 2, give proportionally. Consider your stewardship as a percentage of your resources. And try this. Take your total giving last year and calculate that as a percentage of your income. Now you know your baseline, and so from here on out, each year, focus on increasing your proportional giving. Christian tradition encourages us to strive for a 10% tithe of our resources. It is an ambitious goal, but it may feel less overwhelming if you take it one step at a time. Try increasing your giving percentage a little bit each year. Number 3, offer your pledge today. Join in this community of disciples in spirit and in body as we come and bring our pledges and offer them on the altar of God. So why do we do this? It's because we need this place to be a beacon of hope, of light and love in this community. We need this place to be here for the next 150 years. Let's take a moment to pause and silently pray and reflect on our stewardship. I'm going to offer this prayer that's from your pledge cards, and then I'll have a moment of silence after the prayer in which we can continue to reflect and pray individually. Loving God, we thank you for the rich abundance in our lives. Empower us to abundantly bless our church and community. with our generous time, unique talents, and treasures. Awaken our hearts to the needs and possibilities of others and within ourselves. May we always know and share your unconditional love. Thank you for your generosity of time, talent, and treasure. Thank you for making Trinity a place of abundance, a place where, in the words of the letter to the Hebrews, we hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. For the one who is promised is faithful. Let us hold fast to this place where we call one another and our world to love and good deeds. Amen.